Good evening, all. Resource person is showing.
Good evening, ma'am.
ஐயோ எங்க ஆல்ட் கொடுத்தனே.
We'll just wait for a couple of minutes and
Good evening, Lavanya.
good evening, ma'am.
Sorry, can you hear me? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Shiva. Happy to hear from you.
Oh,
Happy
thank
to
you.
see
Same
you
here.
also. Yeah, just a couple of minutes, sir. 4 o'clock we'll start. Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Welcome, Namachi. Namachi Bayam.
Hello, Sarnam. Dr. Sarnam, how are you?
Fine, fine.
Thanks for the
Nice.
opportunity.
Nice. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, Lavanya.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening, Lavanya and Sarna ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, Radha, ma'am. Welcome.
Good evening, Radha. Thank
Hi,
you.
good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shall we start, ma'am? Yeah. Sasi?
Yeah. Yeah.
By learning, you will teach. By teaching, you will learn. A warm good evening to one and all present here. I, on behalf of the Department of Computer Science, University of Madras, MHRD, RUSA 2.0 Biomaterials team, welcome you all to 2 weeks workshop on analytical tools for image processing, day 10. We all had very useful and informative sessions for the past 9 days. Today's topic is new technologies in cloud for AI. I request Dr. B. Lavanya ma'am, Principal Investigator, Biomaterials Team 2, to say few words about our resource person, Mr. Shiva Thirumalai sir, Founder and CEO, Nasotech, an innovative technology business solutions.
Yeah, good evening, all, and good evening, Mr. Shiva Thirumalai. We know you by that name. Fine, and thank you for joining us and accepting, and we are really eager to listen to your knowledge sharing on new technologies in cloud for AI. Yeah, before we start, a few words as introductory to the participants here by Dr. R. Radha, Dean Research, STMB Vaishnav College. Radha ma'am.
Yes, a very good evening to all present for this program. I thank the Department of Computer Science, University of Madras for giving me a chance to participate and introduce the resource person of today evening. I thank Dr. Sarnam, Dr. PL Chitra and Dr. Lavanya for giving me this opportunity. I'm so honored to introduce Mr. Shiva Thirumalai, who is currently the founder and CEO of Nasotech, an innovative technology business solutions, digital strategy consultant and trainer for executives in emerging technologies. Shiva has over 25 years of experience in managing, creating, and deploying solutions for enterprise, federal, and consumer market, including remote locations. He is a mentor for startups in US and India. Shiva was a founding member of two startups, Paper Software Inc. and Network 24, with successful exits. Apple, other organizations, and new media have featured his apps. Shiva is an ardent leader and strong participating evangelist of open source software. He is a coach and mentor for many technical professionals and entrepreneurs in US, India, and other countries. Shiva has a co-founder and organizer for Google Developer Group in DC area. He worked with many local organizations in organizing meeting on entrepreneurial and technology topics benefiting DC area technology, business professionals, and entrepreneurs. Shiva also ran multiple meetup groups on emerging technologies. Nashotech has pioneered in creating, architecting, deploying a large number of software applications for legacy, internet, mobile, cloud, big data, IoT, artificial intelligence, blockchain, HCD, 5G, voice platforms, AR and VR, and human-centered AI. Nashotech has developed a unique AI and mobile platform for faster development and deployment. Shiva is a TIE-DZ charter member of CTO group in DC, mentor and partnership director for Startups Ignite, lifetime member of Computer Society of India. I am very happy to welcome you for this event, sir. Thank you. And thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to introduce the research person. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Radha ma'am.
Thank you.
Sir, the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, thank you. So, okay, let me share my screen. Is that okay? Thank you, Dr. Soranam and Dr. Lavanya, as well as Dada. Dada went through many amazing introduction. I'm so happy. I'm Shiva, like as they talked about, and Trimurasai. And see, I know on a daily basis in the last, I guess, 10 days or so, you went through a lot of the details on the technologies in terms of the image processing and a lot of that stuff. So I'm taking a different angle today. And by the way, I'm guessing people know this. I am the only non-doctor speaking in this whole session. So I'm not a doctor. I'm just a master's from Madras University, the Madras University campus. Actually, I hope you guys can see the screen. Actually,
Yes, sir.
Is it
visible? It's
oh, okay, cool. So what I'm going to talk about today is slightly different, but especially I'll go through that actually why this topic actually. So the introduction already they've done it. So all of us know, we kind of know these 5 basic elements actually, like earth, water, fire, air, and space. I mean, this is like the 5 basic elements which we live on. Is granted. This was 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. All of that still exists and meaningful. But in today's world, these are the 5 elements actually. Like there is no place you can go without an IoT. Or augmented reality is happening heavily, especially pandemic in the education world. Pandemic, augmented reality helps quite a bit. AI, you don't need to say this, no? The AI is like everywhere, meaning it's getting, in the last 3 years, things have changed so much. The next major thing is the 5G. 5G is, we are just seeing the initial light of 5G, the deeper value and what it is going to bring and how it is going to transform human being is going to be very big, very, very big. And then the blockchain. Blockchain is the trust because of the data being so relevant everywhere, meaning data is available everywhere and data is generated everywhere. So that is critical to know how to trust the data. So the blockchain. So these 5 things are changing. What is powering all this is the quantum computing and cloud. Quantum computing is still in the initial stages, but it's making a lot of progress actually. And cloud, it's kind of ubiquitous now. Right now, without cloud, there's nothing you can do actually. Literally, lot of, even if you just make a phone call with a regular phone, meaning not even the smartphone, you're actually using cloud. So there is a lot of information is generated and everything is powered by cloud. So that's the reason why my take on the topic was, even though it's AI related and all that, but the cloud is fueling all these areas, which is we are consuming on a daily basis. You probably already know all this stuff. I'm just giving a context actually. So if you look at this is AI where the Sophia almost a self-managing, not almost, like self-managed. She's a citizen of Dubai. The Voyager, still traveling. And look at the parking. That a car is parked automatically. Tesla car. And Terminator, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Terminator movie, This one revolutionized, the Terminator 2 movie revolutionized the mindset of robotics, actually. And then this is the more to do with the iRobot, like where it vacuums and goes back to station to charge, and it doesn't fall down on the stairs. A lot of this very self-interesting technology. Interesting thing happened to me yesterday. I was walking my dog, and where I am, it's kind of all these areas are all very thinly populated. Not many people in the roads. And my dog pulled me because there was another dog, and then I fell. When I fell, my iWatch detected automatically and started like making noise, saying, "Hey, you fell. Are you okay?" Meaning, do you want me to call emergency? Instantaneously. Think about it. Is that possible 50 years ago, even 30 years ago? That's not possible. So I built a lot of emergency technology before, but I never practically used it. We tested it a lot, dropping it and things like that. But I never really tested it in a live scenario. Yesterday was an amazing impact actually for me. And just a recap on AI, ML, DL in a glance, there is 3 layers which people, many times we deeper into the deep learning, specifically not worry about the machine learning, not worry about the application of all these technologies. So I just wanted to, as a glance, And then there are frameworks and tools. This is just a representative, where SageMaker, Comprehend, TensorFlow, DeepMind, H2. This world is like exploding. Actually, there is amazing technologies are happening, and making AI to be as trivial as calling a small, simple library or using database. Nobody talks about using a database as a big deal today. So similarly, the AI scaling and the accessibility and usability has changed quite a bit in the recent times. One example of that is there are 3 layers, which anybody needs to worry about if you're involved in the AI, and how it is like impacting human lifestyle across, meaning all components of human life. So just a bottom line, you need to have a good infrastructure. You need to have cloud, you need to have IoTs properly working, big data, mobile. All these are the infrastructure which drives the AI. Then you have applications. These are all just a hardware platform running the architecture. But then you need things like automation, cognitive systems, deep learning, social, robotics, machine vision. All these are AI applications. This is just, again, representative. It's not the comprehensive data. But then you look at the AI, how industries are enabled. What it means is, same person can be traveling and the same person could be taking a car. So there is a little bit of, connected systems. Everything is connected, all of them. What you buy in the grocery, what is in the, with the blockchain, you can completely understand the supply chain, right from which farm grown this corn, Is there a labor used there who are slavery? All that stuff. So recently what I heard is in one of the shops here, they stopped selling coconut water, mainly because those coconut waters are created or harvested by chimpanzees, and they were treated very badly. So because of that, this showed all the shops here stopped that. So that information and data is well connected, well used, and you don't have energy to go and look at all the details. You just want an actionable information, and that information comes from AI. So it understands what you want and then provides it actually. So providing that kind of solution as a technology is much, much, much easier today compared to 20 years ago. So I'm just talking about this edge computing. What I talked about, me falling and then the iWatch making a decision. If you really look at it, these are all like edge solutions actually. You're meaning edge cloud. It is not going into the back end of the cloud, which is like thousands of miles away. Instead, it's within 100 miles actually. And then very fast, very soon with the 5G support and the IoT support, NVIDIA is working on many technologies and other companies also, where your lamppost would be the smartest device in your neighborhood. So the lamppost can take the data and make a lot of decisions without even going back to the cloud. Actually, there is no cloud. The cloud is edge cloud. Where you are, that's where the cloud is. And on top of that, very important thing is that it understands that there is a challenge. So I have a device in my house. Instead for the calling bell, we have something called Ring. That Ring, Nest and Ring, all these are very similar ones. You click on when somebody presses the button or even crosses my house door, it immediately understands that I don't have a planned visitor. If somebody is coming, what is happening? So the AI is into the devices, into our lifestyle on stuff. What is that creates? It creates large volume of data. And then you also need to have a way to process that kind of data. And also for the developers and for the people who are creating technology, they need the infrastructure. They need a mechanism to try different things and see how that would impact. See, earlier, if you look at like even 10 years, 15 years, even 5 years back, the amount of data you would try for the model creation and algorithm tuning and all that, you'll use like 1,000 records, 500 records, because more than that, the processing time will be higher. The processor cannot handle it. Today, it's changed. It's changed actually completely. And I was attending the AWS reInvent on Sunday, December. There is such a big change actually on how it is the entire processor. I'm going to go through that also. So, and I just put this here just to give an idea how AI is in every possible sector. There are pharma companies which is working on it. You saw the COVID, like vaccine, so on. Like how fast they were able to do it actually. Then AI companies. There are companies which is just day in and this again very sample kind of companies, but they are day in and day out. They are focusing on working on AI. And then there are tech corporations, large corporations, which is funding them and also building their own technologies, which will also enabling like 5G and so on. So the AI could be better. And the best part is the investors. The investor 20 years ago or 15 years ago, if you tell them, hey, I'm building an AI application, will you invest? They will not. But today, any startup going to an investor, and if they don't have an AI component part of that their solution, probably they won't invest because they know that is a needed component to succeed in the startup industry. So this is a stack which I just put it there just to be, I'm sure all of you know a lot of this stuff, but this is very important to understand. The stack is not at the very one layer, meaning this is no more like a one layer. It is a multi-layer systems where you are used to build technologies actually. So, And this is a visualization which I really liked it. So I thought I'll just talk about, because we are more talking about the cloud, the key things, the data collection. And if you have a local server and there is a restriction on the server and the reliability, what happens if it fails? Actually, if it doesn't, the data is full. So the cloud gives you this opportunity to scale AI. So in terms of data collection, in terms of the analytics, in terms of the machine learning, and in terms of the NLP also, the data, what you need for that, that's where the cloud makes it like really, really easy for you to scale from, let's say, 10,000 servers to millions of servers actually. So to provide that kind of scalability. So who are the, like the top cloud service provider who are very focused on the AI also? AWS does a lot of stuff. We are going to see that. And Azure, Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce and ServiceNow also extensively expanding in this area. This is very powerful area. The cloud is enabling so that the AI can do much better job, not only on the edge, on the back end also. So why cloud is helping in the AI side? So the main value is the fast service. Speed is the critical thing. Deployment, meaning, let's say you have a model, you created a model, you tuned it, everything. You got the algorithm model and data seems to be correct and it is helping. But then tomorrow morning you found, oh my God, we missed this component. Earlier, even to run through this and test it and make it work and deploy it takes longer time. Now it's not actually. With the cloud, you could do deployment in no time. You could do multiple deployment in the same day also. And there are companies like Netflix and a few other companies, they use something called Chaos Monkey. What they do is the system will be running, Netflix will be running, customers will be watching. There are thousands of servers, So the Chaos Monkey will go and shut down a few set of servers, just so that to see the resiliency. Can the system still run? Can they recreate the data and then run it? So there's a fail fast mindset actually. So you try something, it doesn't work, go to the next one, try something. So it's very, very powerful that actually. And then the elasticity. So what I talk about elasticity is, if you look at the geographical distribution and the redundancy, there are West Coast zones, East Coast zones. You can have a immediate failover to a different. Of course, there are costs involved, but depends on what kind of services you are looking for. What is the company's need? So one example is there are like the helplines, suicide prevention helplines are there across the world. So when you have that kind of need, you cannot have a downtime. The downtime has to be as low as possible. So, and then that is one area. Then there are other areas where, like say, the stock market in the night probably is a little lower in the eastern areas, whereas in the western, like other times, from 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock, high volume, billions of transactions. So you have to be able to expand that and reduce it. So AI is extensively used in the stock market to prevent fraud and all the other areas of challenges in the financial industry. So for AI to be very effective, you need to have a high-end machines. And then you cannot pay for the high-end machines all the time. So how do you balance it? How do you take when it's needed, when it is not required? So those kinds of velocity cloud gives you heavily actually. So, and then the areas actually, the technologies, the concepts which is benefits from the cloud, the DevSecOps, which is, I'm going to go through one slide which talks a little bit more about the DevSecOps. Infrastructure as a code, cattle versus pets, and then like containers. See, the containers is changing the world. I'm going to talk about that also. Microservices, Kubernetes, server. So these are all kind of like powers the AI to be much bigger, much stronger, much more usable actually. Not AI is not only for few people. No, AI needs to be for a lot more people, lot more across the world. It can be helpful actually for helping humans. And then you can get free trials with Azure and AWS, and especially for education, they have it. Even as an individual user, you can get a free trial for a year actually to try out in AWS. Azure also provides the same way. There are tech companies like CloudGuru, Udemy, Pluralsight, QuickLabs. All of them have some mechanism or other for you to play with the cloud as well as with the AI. So I don't know if you have seen this before, but this is like a simple processing actually, where everything from the data processing, data clearance and all that, where you can use Spark to do. Spark clusters can manage high volumes of data, processing data, and then cleaning up actually. So the H2O provides a lot more. H2O is one of them, one of the frameworks. There are multiple other frameworks to create the model creation and training actually. Then you can export that into the Spark itself and the H2O layer. And the other side is the data streaming. So look at this Kafka where it is event-based. You can actually keep sending the data and then the processing will keep happening, stream processing, and then it can provide. So it's both sides where you could, the Python, Java, Scala, Ruby, sorry, not Ruby, R or Jupyter. So there's multiple ways to utilize these kinds of frameworks. So let's assume that you want to set this up all in-house, on-prem, in a local lab. It's impossible. Nobody can afford an individual who wants to learn or a small company which wants to utilize this kind of stuff in a local environment. It's impossible. Meaning it's so expensive even to get it, manage it, run it. Whereas if you same thing, you can do it in a cloud in relatively short period of time. Of course, there are automations and so on are available. If you know that, then it's much easier to recreate. And one of the key values of doing that in the cloud with an automation is you can pretty much build this. And of course, the data are all stored and you can completely delete it and recreate it. If something goes wrong and if you want to recreate that, you should be able to recreate that. So that is the value, what you get out of cloud in terms of that processing. And similar stuff in Microsoft actually, where one of the key things about is the data is coming, the apps and the sensor, all these are generating data. So the Cortana is the equivalent to SageMaker in AWS, sorry, in Azure. So they create the intelligence and then actions. The actions could go into to people. Yesterday, like when I felt it connects with the people, or it can give that information to an app, or it could launch another system, automated system. It can notify a system. It can do all that stuff. So that's an important value. And then I'm going to talk about the SageMaker. SageMaker is one of the technologies which Amazon heavily promotes and provides that, where the idea is data preparation, and then you build the model, train the model, and then deploy and manage. All that can be done within the SageMaker context, actually. So they make it very, very easy for people to utilize them. And there are other companies also utilize these technologies and create. Alteryx is another company. They promote something called citizen data scientist, actually, where you don't need to know data science, but you can still, if you're a business analyst, you can actually utilize all these AI mechanisms to build and deploy and give a very, very valuable insights into that. So this business analyst or a data scientist or a ML ops engineers can utilize SageMaker to build a really, really powerful thing. So two things which they are saving. They are saving the time, and then they are delivering a highly powerful value to the customer. So those two can be done actually. Whether it is an image processing or whether it is a medical prescription analysis, all of that stuff can be done actually. So, and then another area where I wanted to quickly touch on is HealthLake. This is another Amazon's product. See, the SageMaker is very open. You can apply it for all kinds of stuff. There is no vertical restriction. Whereas this health lake is more on the health related information. Let's say a doctor gives you a prescription. So you can actually upload that and immediately it will tell you all the information about the prescription, meaning handwriting. You can write handwriting, complete handwriting, unstructured information, or a structured data using the FHIR kind of interface. The Health Lake takes that, runs a NLP, runs a medical comprehension, healthcare, so standards and ontology, and provides you a detailed insight. And then you can pipe this data into SageMaker or QuickSight to provide even more value actually. So the key thing is it injects the health data and provides value in no time. So the features is easily transforms health data, identify trends and make predictions, support interoperability. So what is the value of this kind of technology? So earlier you need to build, if you are building an AI or neural networks or a deep learning with or machine learning, you need to do everything from scratch, start from scratch, build a lot of those components. Today, if your focus is just to providing a service to a company in terms of the customers, patient or whatever, you can do all that stuff without worrying about even some algorithms, how they are working. You can actually use that algorithm. Once you have the results, if you really are interested, go back to read the algorithm. So that the utility has increased because of the cloud and the versatile power actually of the cloud in terms of the Health Lake and that kind of technologies. So Health Lake also integrates with other systems. So the EMR, EHR. The advantage of the EHR integration is, so you have all your medical records somewhere with a health record. And then there is a new technology which many companies and many countries are involved in defining this called FHIR. And then the FHIR, using the data, it can go into the machine learning, Health Lake and all of that. And then end of the day, what is happening is the customer is getting a good data. So for example, you go to an X-ray, you got an X-ray. So non-typically what the people will do, they take the X-ray, they go to wait for the radiologist, and the radiologist looks at it, tells the physician. But you back up your mind, always you are thinking, oh, should get a second opinion? Which doctor do I go for second opinion? So in many cases, you can actually submit that to this system. And then it provides you the insights, not only from the one doctor perspective, a multiple doctor perspective from across the world. And think of that, you doing it on your own with your own smaller ecosystem. It's impossible. Meaning, what I mean by impossible is the resources, the time it takes, and the number of people involved, all that, it's difficult for you to do. So this provides you the advantage where it automatically connects to the intelligence of multiple systems across the world and builds all that into the outcome and provides you certain insight actually. So that's one of the greatest value what you get. And then the other one, just quickly, I wanted to showcase that how the Health Lake and SageMaker is working together and utilizing the, creating the ML models and providing support if you want to do a lot more customization. So let's say you decide, I want to use SageMaker, but Health Lake and SageMaker, but I want to do my own. Yes, you should be able to do it actually. So, but what you get is you get a recommended ML models, which you can play with it later actually, apply other science technologies for you. So this is my favorite image actually. So the world will, actually, I'm seeing Chennai like this actually now, because there is metro, there is all these things are happening. And if you really look at the amount of data it is generating is mind-boggling. But the smart cities, if they just generate the data, there is no value actually. So the data generated should be able to consumable to others actually. How do you do that? So that is where the cloud comes into play, where you can export the intelligence level data, or you can export the raw data And then the image processing, all of that stuff can be utilized and done. So the smart city like this needs a cloud, but that cloud cannot be across the country or like 1,000 miles away. It has to be in the edge actually. So each of these like towers and the metro stations and all these will have a, because of the 5G within the smart city, will have a processing power to analyze images, to analyze the content, create insight into it. So now I'm taking a different approach, completely different angle. So if you look at the, like long back, there were operating systems. I worked with even assemblers, like 80, 85 kind of assemblers. Then came the operating system, like Microsoft DOS and PC DOS, and that kind of operating system, then Windows 95 and so on. Then virtual machines came, like, hey, I want to run another Windows machine or a Linux within my Windows machine. That came. Then the web, the burning, I'm not talking about the internet, it was there even before, but the web came, like, web revolution, 94, 95, the revolution of web started. And then I still remember, I'm from Netscape originally. So Netscape, we even had many data centers actually. And that data centers is what always powered everything. But then the cloud came. So reduced our burden on the data center. We were able to leverage cloud and provide a lot more. So the cloud generically only provided in some areas, not on all the components. That's when the born of Hadoop and Spark, where they were able to design architect technology where the massive amount of data. Think about it actually, the image, all the image processing, the other professors and doctors have talked about. You need to be able to process all of that. Where do you store the data? So the Hadoop and Spark came up with technologies which made it easy for processing large volumes of data, billions of records. And then came the containers. So the containers, so people, there's no more like a 1 mega monolithic application so you build. I want to build my own container and expose the API to others. So the containers became easier for other people to consume. So they don't need to worry about how I implemented, what happened and all that. Instead, there is a very, very well-defined API so that people can consume, and you can actually comprehensively collect 5 containers and make your own container, which would be exposing that functionality. So the birth of Kubernetes. The Kubernetes, of course, it's another Google's open source initiative. What I like about Kubernetes is it's almost like Linux, actually. I still vividly remember in the 90s, early 90s, when Linux came out, I used to go to a computer show and buy a CD, which will have the source code, because there is, again, it's pre-web. Internet was very expensive, the Prodigy and all that stuff was there, but it's very expensive to even get 10 bytes. So we normally go to a computer show and get a CD, which will have the source code, Slackware and multiple other products were there. And we bring home, and I build my own machines and put the Slackware and compile and build my Linux kernel and run it. Today, everything is changing. So Kubernetes, if you look at Kubernetes, so Kubernetes is in the same level. Today, Linux is ubiquitous. Everywhere Linux is there. Whereas Kubernetes, if you look at it, it's in the similar state. The last 5 years or so, it has taken an uptick. The value of Kubernetes is it makes the number of containers scaling, meaning if you are doing a machine learning processing or deep learning processing, the scaling by Kubernetes makes it very, very easy. And then if you have a lot of Kubernetes objects, containers, containers clusters and so on, Kubernetes clusters, you want to manage and provide it as a service mesh. Obviously, Quantum is coming. So the path it is going, it's very powerful. We are at whoever is in this era of last 10 years to next 20 years, it's an amazing time. to be alive and working on technology. Actually, there is going to be so much changes happening in the next 20 years. So, and then the Kubernetes, if you take the Kubernetes ecosystem, there is the base IaaS and PaaS. After that, once you have the Kubernetes, there are many applications which can run on top of it, many feature sets actually. So why these feature sets are important? If you're doing AI, if you're doing image processing, these are all very critical if you want to build an application. If you're just doing a library, that's a different issue. But if you want to build application and you want it to be serving many people across the world, then you need to understand this infrastructure and the functionalities and how Kubernetes can help you scale your research work or even an application on AI, ML, DL. Actually. So to do the scaling, do I have to learn Kubernetes to the deeper? And do I have to worry about every small component of it? I don't know the technology. I don't know that. So there are many companies which can help you to be scalable actually. So like right from, say, if you're using that OpenShift by Red Hat, you could actually do all kinds of Kubernetes deployment, and it is a premium. It's an IBM product, Platform 9, and Critical Stack by Capital One. Rancher is another one. So there are so many technologies and companies which helps to make the Kubernetes scalable. Why is Kubernetes scalable? Which will help you to do the AI processing and ML, DL much faster. So that's why this is all critical. And I wanted to show this because this is done by DOD, Department of Defense in US, and it's publicly available content. What this one image talks about is how fast can you build your machine learning models and algorithms, testing and deploying and making sure your customers, your users can consume. So what is involved? You need to plan and develop the source code, and then how do you build it? Actually, all these models run through to make sure that it is built. Not only model generation, code generation, algorithms, and so on. And then you have to do a testing. So you need to thoroughly test your model, making sure that it is applying to whatever the need is. And then the security. So security is very important because when you do AI, you are actually playing with the customers' data. So playing with customers' data is like playing with fire. So you have to be careful. You need to have the security properly in place from the scratch, not build a security in the end. That is not going to work. And then when you create these binaries and so on, all the models and so on, you can actually store them in different artifacts actually. And then there are S3 and that kind of mechanisms are also available. And then there are deploying actually. If you want to deploy it into 100,000 servers or 1 million servers, it's impossible for the human being to go deploy it in 100,000 servers. Even if it takes let's say 1 hour or half an hour to one server, it's impossible. So the automation is very critical. That's where these technologies which helps you automate and deploy, create infrastructure, and also monitor. So how it is functioning. So you need to be able to monitor. Is your vacuum cleaner working? Meaning you switched on the vacuum cleaner, put it in the auto mode and left home. And then do you know if it is working? Is it doing its job? So even though it has its own inbuilt AI, that is limited to the scope of the work. But you need a larger connection actually to be able to do that kind of connectivity. And then the scale comes in, and keep insisting the scale comes in the cloud. The cloud, you need to use it. It's expensive in some ways, I understand that. But if you have millions of users, then that expensive is required expenses actually. And then, so this is another sample deployment of how the cloud deployment is happening. Actually, there is various stages of technologies and how it is all, meaning right from like cloud formation or the authentication like Cognito, the SMS for the notification, all those things has to happen. So these are all the cloud deployments actually where it is. So you can see the three areas, the UI, the API, and then asynchronous tasks. So those are the three smaller stacks, which is very critical actually for you to do the cloud deployment. And I put this always, just as a given idea, as a front end to how it is connecting to the user, in various ways. The web application, the email, the notification in the chat, and then other notifications. So there is a lot of this technology. One of the greatest advantage of this kind of technology, serverless technology, is, see, if you have to put everything as a rigid server, let's say you build a monolithic servers for everything, and then you connect, wire it. If you're serving million people, it would cost you so much money. The reason is, whether the million people using it or only 10,000 people are using it, you are still paying for the server. You are still paying for the network traffic, the memory, all that stuff you are paying. Whereas if you do that through the serverless architecture, what you are paying for is only what is used, not for what it is running. You don't need to run mega servers. You can actually run the Lambda, using Lambda technology, change a lot of stuff. So the serverless architecture helps you to pay for only what you need, what you use actually. So that's one of the key areas where it's understanding. So now I'm switching to, sorry, the slides are a little crooked because I was taking photos in the reInvent program. So this is another thing I wanted to show you guys on the technology change by the AWS actually. So we talked about the deployment, we talked about the DevSecOps. All of these are critical, but then the underlying processors, hardware is still expensive. So what they have done is, look at this. If you, the many choices to optimize development cost of scaling ML workload, 70% cost reduction in data labeling. If you do just a regular EC2 instance, you would be paying a lot more money. So there are ways like, spot reserved instances, those kinds of stuff actually, they also support every open source possible, TensorFlow, MLflow, all kinds of open source technologies also available actually. Not only the AWS, Azure also supports that. And then a typical ML stack, like where there is an infrastructure, ML frameworks and infrastructure, where you can use the TensorFlow, that kind of libraries and so on. And then the deep learning containers, GPUs, all these. So look at this. These are all the new processors built by AWS to make all of this possible. Data collection, store features, explain predictions, visualize, pick algorithm, train models, tune parameters, deploy in production, manage and monitor. So the label data to manage edge devices, all of that can be done actually. And then the AI services, remember I talked about the AI services. There is always an infrastructure, there are application building, and then the AI services, like recognition, that is another product, Amazon's product, Poly, transcribe, text, like text translation, NLP, all that can be done. But you still have the control of what algorithm to use, and all that is up to you actually, how you want to use it, how you want to configure. And then the rapid growth of deep learning models actually. So and there are some metrics which I don't use all the metrics, but there are metrics actually, the growth happened. Remember I told you this 2018 is kind of a time where it triggered so many technology revolution actually. So that is going to go for next 5 to 10 years, and you're going to see a huge difference actually. So productionize large models on large number of models. So same thing. The key thing is it's changing. They are helping, the cloud providers are helping you in many ways actually. So one of the examples is the PRN1. This is something which we've been. I was analyzing a little bit. 800 gigabits per second network, meaning from the processor that set up to another systems. And then the memory, increased memory, 512 gig. So the number of cores and the memory, you could do all kinds of stuff. And then the key components, the changes. Look at this. This chip supports PyTorch and TensorFlow natively. So you could do all kinds of stuff if you are already working on a PyTorch or a TensorFlow based algorithms. Those things will run super fast actually, in these kinds of clusters. So same way they have other processor also. Infi1 is another processor which same thing, like integration with ML frameworks, like many of the ML frameworks, and can do all kinds of and then the EBS. That's another important thing. EBS is the data disk mounted into the virtual servers, the EC2 instances. So the VC2 instances, look at all the stuff. You can do Amazon EKS or ECAS or SageMaker. EKS is the Kubernetes service or the container service. And then when you do this, you can do your custom development of image processing. Same time, you can utilize the other people, what they have done as a library. On top of it, the chip itself supports like as much as possible the integration actually. So that is the key value. And then this is another one actually. G5 is a different, so lower cost, that kind of, if you don't want to pay for a higher cost and the lower cost stuff. And then this is another, so this is another interesting stuff. So in some ways, Amazon and NVIDIA are competitors actually, but they still have a mechanism to enable GPUs, like NVIDIA GPUs, A100 GPUs into your instance. So that way it increases the memory, you have more memory, and then you can actually use GPUs to do all kinds of whatever you want to do in terms of processing. So that's a great value on how the change is happening. The other one is the DL1 actually. It's a slightly different type of mechanism. And so this is another instance. You can choose these instances. So GPU compute instance, that is increasing and the value is increasing. You can go with G5, G4 or if you want, it's up to you how much you want it. What is your need? Whether it is a lower end model creation or a higher end model creation, you can pick and choose which type of CPU you really want to use it actually. And then the performance, model training performance have increased, like unbelievable increase has happened. On various areas, ML frameworks, training time is reduced, automated model partitioning, and then efficient pipeline. All this, SageMaker provides you that kind of a clusteral mechanisms also. So this is very interesting, which I saw. I thought it was pretty powerful. Literally, you could automate the entire restaurant's processing. See, in general, you may not think it is important, but when it becomes important is, like say on a daily basis, Monday to Thursday, the traffic in the restaurant probably lower in the evening, higher in the afternoon. But whereas when it is Friday evening or a Saturday, Sunday, the traffic will be much higher. So you will be able to do that. So that's one of the reasons where you can use vision, voice, and IoT data analytics to help restaurants measure the quality of service. It's very, very important to quality of service. So without, see, the key important thing about IoT is the user doesn't have to do, that the restaurant owner doesn't have to do anything. It automatically does all the data collection, data processing, data valuation, validity, everything is done automated way actually. So you don't need to worry about that. And then, so this is an interesting aspect. I thought it probably worth for you guys to look at it. The cloud continuum. It's no more, hey, that is a cloud, I have to go reach it. It all changes. See, look at this low latency. The performance, the 5G is making it in a way that I get to get a response in no time. And I get a high-end value in no time. So if you really look at this, there is no storage. So the 5G is changing the people's mindset. Think of a time you don't need to worry about storage in your phone. it's transient, meaning you take the picture, you don't care. No, when you need the picture, it appears in your phone. But where it is stored, how it is stored, doesn't matter actually. You don't need to worry. So the bandwidth, the 5G bandwidth in any local location makes a big change actually. You don't need to have a large cell tower. There are ways they are doing where a car could be a cell tower. Each of the cars could be a cell tower to connect with each other on the 5G side of it. So I put this mainly because if you look at the way industry is growing everywhere, healthcare, translation, personalization, retail, forecasting, finance, robotics, everywhere ML is growing. See, ML is growing to a level, you may not buy a device, you may not buy a stove if it doesn't have an ML built into that stove, or your car, or your bike. Tesla generates so much data, and it analyzes so much data, and does all that work within the car. It doesn't connect to the cloud to process anymore. It is all processed locally. So that means each of these services we use needs to analyze, needs to do a lot of work and provide you like a smart feedback, not a random feedback or a repeated feedback, more a smart feedback. So that means everything. Let's say you interact with the ATM. Right now, the ATM, majority of the time, is a dumb process. But think how it could become very, very interactive with you in terms of the smartness. It can help you like a lot of the times immediately. So that kind of opportunity is there. What is growing, that is what is happening there. And then this is another architecture where all the stuff, we talked about how do you use an EC2 instant, how do you use a Trainium processors. So those are all possible actually, this kind of a very, very simple architecture. And one of the key importance of this is you can create this architecture and completely destroy and recreate actually. So the infrastructure as a code is kind of proliferating everywhere, where you don't need to worry about what happened, my server is down and all that stuff, what do I do? So that kind of support, even to create those kinds of infrastructure support, there is AI ops, AI operations management, that is happening. And then there are GitOps, which is like all of the stuff can be automated. So the automation and intelligence and smartness is built into not one profession, every profession in the world. And we all know that planes, the pilots are supported so heavily to fly the plane. Many things have happened within that plane. And also the Mars exploration, even the whole thing which India created. That also like a lot of AI. That means everything. You need to be able to look at the image, process that, get a result, submit it, and act on it immediately. So that kind of power can be built actually, not only with the cloud, with the edge cloud also. So that's what is majorly happening. And then this is like a simple serverless app, one of the simplified version of the larger UI I talked about, where the user connects to the API gateway, there's a Lambda, and then behind the scene. And here you can access Health Lake, you can access Comprehend, or same thing, Cortana kind of technologies also can be accessed. And you can put your own technology, like if you have built like image processing and other healthcare processing, all that can be added and be available for the customers. So the takeaways, meaning the EKS, one of the key things which I was kind of keep pushing is, it's very important for you to, if you want to be in the AI, you need to have association with other technology guys who can build some of this stuff for you. And it will take you to a large level actually. There is so much is happening. And then there are many reference technologies like websites are available. Most of it you may know already, but I'm just saying that there are the machine learning. I love the ML flow. It's all open source. You can pretty much utilize the ML flow. Databricks has a very powerful mechanism to deliver there. So that's pretty much it, actually, my talk on. So hope I didn't go really fast. I tend to go fast, but if you guys have any questions or other areas you want to discuss.
Participants can post your questions in chat box, or you can ask, unmute your mic and ask.
Hope this topic was useful. Can you guys, any of you give the feedback?
Sir, I have one question. May I ask you?
Oh yeah, please.
Sir, as a researcher point of view, we are handling big data. So, which cloud is preferable for researchers for doing research?
So depending on the cost involved. So let's say Amazon gives free, same thing Azure also. And if you're using TensorFlow extensively, probably Google Cloud is also pretty good actually that way. And with Azure, you can actually create a lot of this stuff in a free tier. And for education research, they give you another good opportunity actually that way. And setting up AWS is pretty easy actually. You know, you should be able to set up an account and create and start playing with it actually immediately. And same thing, all three of them have the very similar mechanism. And also, once you narrow down what is your research area, are you creating a new algorithm or a model? And that would help you to choose that actually.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there is one question in chat box. AI-based restaurant, is it a prototype model or it is a function?
I think it's a prototype model actually. But many companies, so there is a friend of mine works in a company, they build, so see, a lot of people have this bad sleeping habit and that causes their spinal injury. So there's a company which built IoT in the bed actually. So when you're sleeping and they have a lot of challenges, and you won't believe billions of dollars are spent on sleeping disorders. So when you do the IoT, what happens is it collects data and then provides you why you are not sleeping, meaning in the sense like where, if you're like rotating constantly, or even the lot of the watches, smart watches also detects that actually some level. But the bed technology provides a lot of information. You know, is your like a restlessness comes what time? So similarly in the restaurant, what the small stuff what I have done, sorry, not me actually, what I've shown is that you cannot, the restaurant owner cannot be in every endpoint actually. So how do you get that actually? Are you losing customers? And when is that long queue is happening? All that information can be collected and processed for you, and you get a summary, you know, saying, hey, this is the challenge you are facing. So that's what I wanted to showcase that, but I don't know of any restaurant completely implemented that.
Thank you, sir.
No.
There is one more question. They want to know that future scope for machine learning in medical field. If you can.
Amazing. We've
Yeah.
only scratched the surface. So it's amazing opportunity. The machine learning. So I don't know if you guys played with the Watson. Watson is another. There are a lot of videos, IBM Watson videos actually. So where it talks a lot about it. So the reason I'm saying is there are many healthcare challenges which we don't have an answer. And even so especially the cancer, that's like a huge areas where the AI is going to be a lot more employed actually, in terms of finding it out, because there are solutions happening, but it's in the isolated silos. So the AI in that area is going to be huge, actually, huge opportunity.
Sir, actually, I'm working with brain MRI, implementing with ML.
Oh, nice.
So need your guidance, sir. How I can, is it actually you are worthy to go with this topic? I'm a PhD scholar, sir. I'm starting my work with this.
Yeah, meaning you should. I don't know if you have access to John Hopkins. John Hopkins has a lot of research going on. They are one of the topmost research organization in the healthcare here in US. And then also there are, I can give you some names actually, like some of the university names. John Hopkins, I can even find if there is a contact there actually.
Okay, we'll definitely search it for sir. And thank you for your support.
Yeah, and this is my contact actually, my email address and all of that stuff.
Thank you, sir. We'll definitely ping you, sir.
Oh, sure, please. I'm very happy that you are doing research on that. Because a lot of these healthcare issues, people don't, meaning it's a difficult area to come up with a solution. And what I love about AI is it helps you to think beyond our own capability. Instead of us restricting ourselves, we can do a lot more than what we would have done if it is just a standalone single area to work on. Actually. Yeah, like our professor actually, Dr. K. Sundaram, when he was doing research and showing us a lot of stuff, I was always wondered, but then his research was restricted by the hardware we had. So the rendering, I still remember that actually. He used to do a 3D rendering. To do a 3D rendering, it will take 3 days. So we'll leave the machine on. Hopefully there's no power cut. 3 days to render the 3D objects actually. Today, like in the Oculus VR, it generates in most short seconds. So that is another thing. I don't know if you are familiar with the Oculus technologies. And between the augmented reality and virtual reality, there is a lot of research is going on actually in terms of the understanding the practical applications and so on.
So I have a question.
Oh, sure. Oh my God.
On behalf of the teacher participants and guides and research scholars, like what you find as a research gap between the industry need and the ongoing researchers?
Perfect question. See, my personal, there are two things which I always worry about. My own experience now. The education is not available to everybody. Why is that? Really think about it. If the education is there, people will be able to afford and so on. The second thing is food. And then the third is the healthcare. Now, these three are very critical. I saw a news in Sun TV, actually. It's funny that I watched it in Sun TV and also some other program I watched that. in Africa, there are certain part of Africa, there is no water. Actually, we all know there is many areas there is no water. And then they are using a fake banana tree. So it's that tree can grow anywhere with no water, just a sunlight and so on, it can grow. And they are using it as a food source to serve millions of people in Africa. So the research, one of the key researches, we went to like a non-organic lab, where there are challenges, the cancer is happening and all this relationship is there. So the education is one area. It's very, very important for the AI because self-education. How do you educate yourself as a self? The healthcare is very, very big area of the research where you will feel that, we are covering a lot of this of the education side. But you need to look at the MSD diseases, Alzheimer's diseases. These are all still not cured. There is a lot of need is there. But the people who are doing research today, they're all medical professionals, not technology, AI kind of people applying there. So there is a great opportunity in that convergence between the healthcare and AI specialists. I don't know, if that answers your question?
Yeah.
Because I see a great, because one of my friend, a company which I mentored, they built MSD. MSD is a disease. There is no real cure actually. The sad part of that is when somebody has MSD, they literally, meaning they don't die immediately. It's a pain. See, when somebody has a heart attack, it's a bad thing. Meaning, I completely understand it's a bad thing, but at least they don't suffer. They suffer a short period of time and die. Whereas the MSD, you will be alive, but you will be suffering for years together. So one of my close friends' spouse, she had MSD, and then, meaning literally going through the challenge over the years to the level where you can't even talk, you can't walk, you can't do stuff. And so my other company which I mentored, they built a wearable actually. So when you are like a last stage of MSD, it's very difficult to cure, but they have these wearables where it detects within 10 seconds. It has an AI technology to detect how the MSD is doing. So they are providing feedback and treatment and so on. But it's just a start actually. Now it is funded by NSF, National Science Foundation, US, and many organizations are funding them now. It's a very powerful area to be in.
And one more question, like, do you think AI will aid or enhance the students' understanding of the concepts?
Absolutely. That is perfect question actually. If you look at it, that is where it's going to go. Because see, the interesting change in the voice, the voice technology, as well as, so when is the last time we said, I'm searching for something? Most of the people, they use it like, I'm Googling for some information. And many people I have hired, or at least I interviewed, the younger generation, even slightly older, like 5-10 years experienced people, they say, do you know how to do this? I don't know, I can Google and find out. So what is happening is they are only learning what is core to their learning, and the rest of it, they know how to discover that actually. So the discover is still complicated because I have tried I talked to many people. The discoverability is difficult. So a lot of people don't know how to search in Google actually, to get the right answer. So AI would help them quite a bit actually. That's another area the technology is changing that way. So one example, we talked about this favorite question. why students are not asking questions in any event or in an interview. We don't know how they are functioning and so on. The challenge is they are intimidated for no reason, meaning why they should be intimidated. We don't know. Meaning, honestly, I have seen this in the last 30 years, actually. So one of my close, he's my senior, 1 year senior in MCA. He was one of the first batches in the University of Madras. Very close friend. Amazing technology guy. Even in that era, he knew Unix inside out, actually. He's one of the best Unix guy I knew at that time, 91. And he couldn't find a job. Literally, he couldn't find a job for more than a year, and some very bad stuff he went through. The reason is he's technically good. He was very good than any of my classmates or his classmates. But the challenge was not that. How do you express that, your knowledge and technology to others? If you put 3 people with him next to him, he can do all that very easily. But when it is going to an interview, going to that, he had a different challenge, actually. He passed away a couple of years later or a year later. It's a very sad part. That's one of the areas AI can help, actually, extensively help, actually. It's more like an, I have a cheesy quote, Iron Man, no? The Iron Man is like augmented with all the stuff so he can fly and so on. Similarly, every student needs to be augmented with AI so that they can do a lot of stuff, actually, more than what they are capable of.
Yeah, I used to feel like now we are concentrating more on how to make missions think. But what sadly, the reality is we need to now learn protocols and device algorithms to make students think.
Yes.
They are not ready to think. Everything they just want to search, they want to copy, they want to paste. That's it. Like they are not ready to even think basically. So I think the next era will be we'll converge from machine learning to human learning, like how to make humans learn to think and so on. Maybe that's just my thought.
But at the same time, if you look at the people now, what is happening, I've seen is they are able to observe so much content in short period of time. Because I have seen many kids, they chat with like 25 people at the same time. And they watch Facebook, they watch Instagram, they Snapchat, all that content consumption in no time. So their capability and learning and observing is there. But depending on which area they should be focusing on.
Yeah, how productive they are using it is actually a big question, sir. That is actually my worry is. They are real, as you said, the later generations are really intelligent. There's no doubt about their intelligence, and where are they are applying it and how productive are they're going to make it? That is actually the big question. Of course, as you said, like there are some segment who are really concentrating and productive, and they are very productive. But the other half is like we really have to think of some AI techniques which could make them think about like
absolutely,
be more productive.
One of
that could be an open research opportunity for researchers.
Absolutely, you're right, absolutely. So I personally, if you don't mind talking about my business, not business, our technology, what we are building something called Kavigai, actually. So specifically to address that, actually. So what we are doing is, if I'm a standalone person trying to grow in my life, it's tough, actually. It's tough because I already have too many things I need to take care. So I go to college, come back, and then study and finish my test and so on. And that's all I focus on. There is nothing additional I can. Whereas if you have a mentor, the mentor can guide you, help you to grow in areas which is impossible for you to do it actually as a standalone. I treat them like a professor, like you can look at the students and say, hey, just don't do this. Go to even coming to this event. Because of you, they were able to come to this event. Actually. Otherwise they wouldn't have come to this event. So And that kind of guidance, the mentor and mentee. So I put that in the start of the my talk actually. So we're building something called Kavigai. The key thing there is to help people to realize what is missing. So, and as you mentioned, the learning capability is not there. It's not true actually. It's not there on the right area. So what is your goal? And then are you learning for that goal? So when people join the MCA or any other courses, MSc or MBA, the starting, they don't even have what is their outcome needs to be. What is their destination should be? Do you want to go to a very big company? Do you want to be in a startup? Or do you? So there are so many things. And a lot of people study just for the degree sake. That is a challenge actually. No, it's not new. It's not happening just like in the last 5 years or 10 years. It is, even when we were studying masters, a lot of my friends I've seen never touch their computer. They are like, oh, I just need a degree so that I can get a job. I've seen many people do that. But then taking the time, learning and really executing that part of your regular process is important. That can only come from somebody who can help them. Actually, that is the biggest challenge. If somebody says, okay, I am going to help you. It could be an uncle, it could be dad, it could be a friend, it could be a professor. So you're right. But honestly, the AI can also help them. As you said, humans have to learn from the machines actually. So that is coming pretty soon.
Any other questions from participants?
I'm trying to look at the chat, but
We had answered all the chat questions also. Sir.
oh, okay.
Really, thank you, sir. Thank you for such an wonderful eye-opening session. Actually, we need to say, yeah, we'll have some few minutes for a formal vote of thanks.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank
No
you all.
duty. Yes, sir.
Yeah, start.
No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this 2 weeks workshop such a resounding success. I thank our resource person, Mr. Shiva Tirmarisi sir, founder and CEO, Nasotech and Innovative Technology Business Solutions, for your valuable time and for an informative and interactive session. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time, sir. I
Thank
know it's
you.
early morning there, and thank you for spending so much of time for us. Thank you for your knowledge sharing.
No problem at all. I hope, because see, all the other like the speakers I saw, all of them are doctors and talking in various different
Sir, the
areas.
doctorate is not the measure of knowledge, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
As far as we are concerned, like you are more than that.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Okay. Have fun, guys. I'll talk to you later, actually. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I
And
request
dear
the
participants, yeah, please fill in your feedback forms, and we'll meet tomorrow by 4 o'clock to continue with our dental image processing using deep neural networks by Dr. P. Shanmugavadivu, Professor, Head, Computer Science and Applications, Gandhigram Rural Institute. Thank you all. Feedback link is there in the chat box. We can post. If we can post it again. Thank you, participants. Thank you all for your patient listening and continuous support for 10 days. We have completed our successful 10 days. Hope you all enjoy it and get some knowledge out of it. Thank you. Thank you all.